Okay, so in this video, we're gonna go over a credit card setup that can get you 5% cash back on everything. And what if I told you that you could do this with just 6 credit cards? If you're curious, get ready because we're going to be building this credit card setup together. For each of these 8 different categories, I'll first give you some clues about the card, and then we'll identify and assign one card to each category, of course, getting 5x or 5% cash back. So I'm super pumped for this, and with that being said, let's take a look at the board. The 8 credit card categories that we'll cover in today's video will be restaurants, groceries, travel, transit, gas and EV charging, retail shopping, online shopping, and utilities. And before we get started with our first category, let's first establish some house rules. Firstly, all of these credit cards may have multiple different categories, but we are only interested in the 5% and 5x categories on each card. Of course, we're looking at cashback only, so these cards have to be either straight cashback or earn a flexible currency that can be redeemed for at least 1 cent per point. This list is going to focus on extreme value, and to do this in the simplest way possible, all of these credit cards will have no annual fee. And since I want this list to be as accessible as possible, we won't be using any business cards or Bank of America cards in this video. Regarding business cards, I do want to mention that the Chase Ink Cash Card is a phenomenal business card, getting you 5x Ultimate Rewards points back on internet, cable, and phone services, as well as 5x Ultimate Rewards points back on office supply stores. So if you want to add this card to cover even more 5x categories, this is a great card to do so, but because it's a business card, it won't be covered in today's video. And with Bank of America, you can get a 5.25% category multiplier with the customized cash rewards card, but because you need to have platinum honors to do so, and this isn't as accessible to everyone out there, this card also will not be featured in this video. And now that we have all the rules established, let's go back to the board and see how we can get 5% cash back on everything. The first category we're going to cover is the restaurant category. This is a pretty challenging category to start with because even though restaurants are a top spending category for most households, there's not really a lot of cards that can get you a stable 5% multiplier. With that in mind, the card I assigned to restaurants is a card that earns a flexible points currency, earns 5% back on your highest eligible spend category each billing cycle, and is limited to the first $500 spent that same billing cycle. So which card do you think I assigned to the restaurant category? If you said the Citi Custom Cash Card, you would be correct. We all know and love the Citi Custom Cash Card because it's an amazing no annual fee credit card that earns 5x thank you points on your highest spend category on up to $500 spent per billing cycle in the categories shown here. You can see that these categories are pretty broad and covers a lot of major categories such as restaurants, gas stations, grocery stores, as well as travel and transit. Like I said before, there are not a lot of credit cards that cover this category at the 5% level every single month, which is why I'm using the Citi Custom Cash Card right away. There are, of course, rotating category cards that will sometimes cover the restaurant category, but since this will only be helpful in a single quarter, we can't use these cards to build our core setup, although we will be talking about them later in this video. The next category is going to be the grocery category, and this is also going to be another top spend category for most households. This card gets you 5% cash back on your grocery store purchases, but it does have a cap of $10,000 spent in a calendar year. And this card is issued by Comanity Bank. And this card is the AAA Daily Advantage Visa card. This is not a very well-known card, but it definitely packs a punch specifically for the grocery category. What's really nice about this card in particular is that not only does it offer 5% cash back for no annual fee, it also has no foreign transaction fees, and so that's a really nice bonus. I will say that one issue with this card is that it only offers $10,000 in spend in a single calendar year for that 5% category, which breaks down to about $2,500 per quarter or about $833 per month, which is not bad, but if you have a growing family that spends more than this on groceries, you may need to add another card. This next category was by far the hardest category to find a suitable credit card, specifically one with a 5x or 5% multiplier. We could have used the Citi Custom Cash Card here, but we already used that one for restaurants. So for the purposes of this video, we're not going to use it again. For context, the travel category typically covers air travel, hotels, rental cars, and sometimes even cruise bookings. And the card I selected for the travel category is not one that you'd really think of, but if you're comfortable with using travel portals, it actually opens up a lot of possibilities with a 5% or 5x multiplier for these types of travel purchases. Now you could use another card that earns Chase Ultimate Rewards points to get that 5x multiplier, but the card I'm thinking of actually earns 5% cash back in the form of Amazon points. And so with all that being said, if you guessed the Chase Amazon Prime card, this is the card that I was thinking of to get 5% cash back on that travel category. If we dig into the fine print of this card, we can see that you can earn 5% cash back for each $1 spent made on your card through the Chase Travel Portal. Now this multiplier is also available on the Chase Sapphire Preferred and Freedom cards, and for this video, we can consider the Chase Freedom Flex, since this card would earn 5x Ultimate Rewards points in addition to a 5x rotating category. And what's nice about the Chase Travel Portal in particular is that the 5% bonus can be earned on airline tickets, hotels, car rentals, activities, and cruises, which is a pretty comprehensive list for that travel category. I know a lot of you are also going to say that I shouldn't count the Amazon Prime card because even though it has no annual fee, you do have to pay $139 every year to have Amazon Prime. And even though that's true, you do get more than just this credit card with Amazon Prime. And so whether or not you want to classify this card as a no annual fee card or not is going to be a personal choice, and I consider this card to be a no annual fee card. So that brings us to the sister category to travel, and that's going to be the transit category. Now, when we talk about transit, we're usually talking about things like buses, subways, taxis, and trains, as well as other transit type of expenses, such as parking and tolls. Again, this was another category that was hard to cover completely, especially because we already used the Citi Custom Cash Card, and the card I decided to go with gets you 5% cash back on 2 categories that you choose each quarter. These 2 categories have a combined limit of $2,000 each quarter, and this card also gets you 2% cash back on 1 everyday category like gas stations, EV charging stations, grocery stores, or restaurants. And so the card I picked for this category was the US Bank Cash Plus card. If we look closely at the 5% cashback categories that we can select, we can see that ground transportation is one of those categories. But this is only going to cover, as you would expect, ground transportation, which includes buses, trains, subways, and taxis, so this is only a subset of the transit category. I know it's not perfect, but I'm doing the best that I can. Let's move on to the next category, which is the gas and EV charging category. So there's another card that's related to a card that we've previously discussed that gets you 5% cash back on gas purchases and EV charging stations. There's a cap on this multiplier up to the first $7,000 in spend in a calendar year, and this card is issued by Comenity Bank. And so the card I selected for the gas and EV charging category is the AAA Travel Advantage card. Just like its sister card, the AAA Daily Advantage card, the Travel Advantage card also has no annual fee and no foreign transaction fees, but its 5% category is on gas and EV charging instead of groceries. Now, I'm not entirely sure if you can have both of these cards at once, so if you can, that's great. But if not, I do also want to briefly mention the Abound Platinum Visa card, which is offered by the Abound Credit Union. I first heard about this card from Josh Butler since this is his primary gas card, earning 5% cash back. But I don't think that this card earns 5% back on EV charging, so if he ever wants to get a Tesla, that may become a problem. So moving on to retail shopping, this category is going to be covered not by a specific card per se, but a general collection of cards that can be grouped together because they get 5% cash back at their respective retail stores. These cards are typically negatively viewed because they usually aren't that flexible in both earnings and redemption, and some can be a little predatory when it comes to APRs. And so you probably know what group of cards I'm talking about, and these cards are the store branded credit cards, which I'll represent with the Target Red card. Now, your retail shopping card doesn't have to be a Target Red card, of course, but you can also use other retail cards from your favorite retail stores. For example, Best Buy or Kohl's. So for this category, I would identify which retail stores you shop at and then consider opening a store credit card for that 5% cashback multiplier. The next category that we're going to cover is the online shopping category, and I'm going to bet that you probably already know which card I'm going to suggest. We've already talked about this card in this video, and it earns 5% cashback not only at Amazon.com, but also at Amazon Fresh, Whole Foods Market, and on Chase travel purchases, provided that you have an Amazon Prime membership. And this card is, of course, the Chase Amazon Prime card. As Amazon is the biggest online retailer, using this card for online shopping should be a given, and this card also has a lot of other very helpful uncapped 5% categories that can supplement the capped grocery category on the AAA Daily Advantage card. And some of you may or may not want to use Amazon, and that's going to be a personal choice. But if that's you, you can also consider using the Walmart credit card, which gets you 5% cash back from Walmart.com. And this card has no annual fee, so if the Amazon Prime card bothers you because of its membership fee, the Walmart card could be a nice alternative. And that brings us to our last category, which are home utilities. I'm pretty sure you know which card this is, since there's only one card that I'm familiar with that gets 5% cashback in this category. We mentioned this card already, and it had not one, but two categories you could choose for 5% cashback with a $2,000 combined limit each quarter. And of course, this card is the US Bank Cash Plus card. As we discussed earlier, we chose ground transportation as our first category, but that still leaves another 5% category open, and the category that I think would be a good pairing would be the home utilities category. Of course, you can see that there are plenty of other categories to choose from, so if there's a category that would be a better fit for you, then of course you could use that category instead. So now let's take a look at our setup as a whole to see what cards we used and any spending limits if present. The Citi Custom Cash Card gets you 5x thank you points at restaurants with a $500 limit per month. The AAA Daily Advantage card gets you 5% cash back at groceries with a $10,000 limit every calendar year. The Chase Amazon Prime card gets you 5% cash back on travel, provided that we use the Chase Travel Portal, as well as 5% cash back for Amazon.com purchases for our online retail category. The US Bank Cash Plus card gets us 5% cash back on a partial subset of the transit category, as well as 5% cash back on home utilities with a combined limit of $2,000 per quarter. The AAA Travel Advantage card gets us 5% cash back on gas with a $7,000 limit every calendar year. And store credit cards like the Target Red card can also get us 5% cash back at specific retail stores. Okay, so those are the 6 cards that I wanted to share with you to get 5% cash back on everything. But I also want to mention the rotating category cards like the Chase Freedom Flex and the Discover It. Both cards offer 5x or 5% cash back in a rotating category up to $1,500 in spend. These cards can be very helpful in our setup because throughout the year, they can spot check different categories and help supplement any categories with spending caps depending on what that rotating category is on that card in that particular quarter. So even though these cards can't be assigned to a specific category, they can be rotated around like a player in the flex position in fantasy football to give us additional purchasing power when needed. I also want to mention that I'm sure you noticed that if we had access to multiple Citi Custom Cash cards or multiple Bank of America Customized Cash Rewards cards with the Platinum Honors 5.25% multiplier boost, it would be so much easier to cover all of these categories. Of course, you could get multiple Citi Custom Cash cards or Bank of America CCR cards yourself, but if you have a player too, it becomes so much easier to work together and have 2 of each card to get broad coverage on all of these 5% categories. So those are the cards that I recommend to use to get 5% cash back on everything. Now, I know it's not everything, but this was what I think was a good compromise when given the restrictions or parameters that we set at the beginning of this video. I hope you had as much fun in this video as I did, and if you want to see what the best no annual fee cashback credit card setup would look like, check out this video next.